Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. A woman about 17 years old was walking through a village hand in hand with her boyfriend. The woman had fair skin, luscious black hair that would make the men go crazy, curvaceous figure, but the thing that was most enticing was her eyes. They were a ruby red color. This woman is called Kurenai. Her boyfriend on the other hand was a bit rougher looking, and strings of oncoming facial hair and chews on a toothpick. Asuma pondered out of nowhere, I wonder what it's like to have kids. Kurenai froze, they were only 17 and he was talking about kids. Kurenai replied, I don't know, I mean we're only 17 and. Relax Ren-chan, I was only kidding. With a big smile on his face. Kurenai stared at him dumbfounded and pouted. You need to stop joking like that. I had a heart attack, you know. Ahahaha. Gomen, I love your reactions. The two walked hand in hand enjoying each other's company and a gust of wind blew past and Kurenai heard a cry for help. Kurenai said, Nay, Asuma-kun. Do you hear that? He listened in as hard as he could. No. Why, I can hear a child crying, with another gust of wind and she sprinted towards the crying she could hear. And she furthered near the source. It was in a dark alleyway, thoughts was running wild in Kurenai's head. Could it be rape? She walked down the alleyway and could not believe her eyes. A child of at least 4 was in the corner of the alleyway, clearly shaken up covered with blood. She knelt down to the crying child, and hugged the child with a motherly instinct. At that moment Asuma came running. Kurena. Well, would you look at that? It seemed so natural. A mother caressing her child. Asuma smiled warmly and thought. And she says she's not ready PFFFT. The crying child looked up and from what Kurenai could see it was a little girl, with bright white eyes, that could rival the moon's. Kurenai froze and shouted in her head, this is the Hyuga heiress. What's your name, little one? Hi Hinata. Just Hinata. Kurenai tipped her head in confusion. Hinata nodded and started crying some more. Kurenai picked up the little bundle and went towards Asuma. She's going to be staying with me for a while. Asuma grinned, sure, I'll check up on you in 2 days, I have a mission to go to, and with that, he disappeared in a puff of smoke. Kurenai groaned and said, show off. She started walking to her destination and thought something was off. That's odd. She's covered in blood but she has no wounds. Upon arriving at Kurenai's 1-bedroom apartment she placed the little girl down on her sofa. Wait here, okay? I'm going to run you a bath. Hinata nodded shyly, having crying so much she got a headache and a dry throat. Kurenai went upstairs and walked to the bathroom solemnly. She kept thinking, what happened? What in the actually blue hell happened? Did the Hyugas get attacked? Or more likely a civil war between the Hyugas? Kurenai snorted at the thought. She was worried for the little girl. It looks like she's witnessed things a girl her age should not have witnessed and Kurenai knows it, because her childhood wasn't exactly the best. She shook off the thought and started running the bath for Hinata. Kurenai went into her bedroom and started looking through her clothes. Unfortunately and obviously there was no clothes for a girl Hinata's age, so Kurenai promptly took a plain purple shirt of her own. Kurenai thought, damn, I don't have anything for her underwear. No worries, I'll just put them in the wash straight after she takes them off. I'm forgetting something. The bath. With that Kurenai sprinted towards the bathroom and saw the bath that's practically for an adult. She sighed, well I guess we should share. Kurenai went downstairs to the surprisingly well-behaved 4-year-old. She shook her head, of course, she's a Hyuga. But aren't Hyuga kids from the main clan be stuck up? Kurenai is really confused now. Kurenai shouted. Yush. Hinata flinched. Kurenai felt really bad and knelt down. Sorry, I didn't mean to frighten you. Hinata looked up with puppy dog eyes. Ah, she's so kawaii. I want to eat her. Kurenai was squealing in her head. Hinata stuttered out. Why you didn't frighten me, just my Otu-san used to shout at me when he was angry and it gave me a bad reminder. Kurenai did not hear a word she said, but she knew it wasn't good. Well, Hinata, I kind of ran the bath too big, so we'll be sharing, okay? Kurenai laughed nervously and scratching her face. But Hinata smiled and nodded nonetheless. Kurenai asked, "Can you undress yourself or?" Hinata shook her head. Great. Kurenai started taking the clothes of Hinata, gently trying not to hurt her, though Hinata, however, was confused. Hinata tipped her head to the side and asked quietly, "Why are you undressing me like that?" Kurenai frowned at this, however. "What do you mean? Doesn't your parents do this the same way?" Hinata shook her head. Anyo, my Ka-san does it the same, but not so much my Ootu-san. Kurenai bit down on her tongue. She didn't like where this was going. Quote. How does your father dress you then, Hinata? Hinata's bright opal eyes stared into Kurenai's vibrant crimson ones. He purposely tries to scratch me, and hurt me, saying this is how everyone does it, and Ka-san's way was wrong. Kurenai was livid and disgusted. What the? Again Hinata flinched at Kurenai's outburst. But Kurenai didn't care this time. How can someone do that to a child, their own child no less? Kurenai started pacing around, plotting the most painful death imaginable. Hinata spoke up. Anyo, is it bad? Kurenai span round and placed her hands on Hinata's shoulders. Very bad. Very, very bad. Hinata's eyes went wide as if she made a huge mistake. She really wanted that bath now. Kurenai apologized. Gomenasai. Your father is a really horrible man. Let's have that bath, and you need to tell me what happened, K. Hinata nodded and reached out to Kurenai to pick her up. Kurenai bent down and picked up Hinata and snuggles her and whispered, "You must have had a painful life, nay." All Hinata could do was stay silent. In the bath, Kurenai started washing the blood off Hinata. Not a scratch on her, but so much blood. I wonder whose is it? Hinata started giggling when Kurenai started washing her feet. Kurenai had the biggest smile on her face, such a cute melody of laughter from the small child. It was refreshing to hear, after the events. Kurenai decided to tickle her some more, and Hinata laughed to high heavens. And all of a sudden a voice boomed the room. Nai-chan. Both Kurenai and Hinata cringed. Hinata was sad that the moment was gone. Kurenai greeted the unknown person to Hinata. Evening, Anko-chan. Anko, the young girl that wore revealing clothes, almost inviting perverts to come ravish her. Her hair was lavender purple and was wore in a high ponytail. Nai-chan, what are you doing playing with little kids? You're sick. Anko joked. However, Kurenai didn't find this funny as she would have found it after the turn of events. Anko-chan, this little girl has had a tough time today. Anko noticed the little girl doesn't have a sparkle in her eyes like most kids do. She walked towards the little girl and was surprised. A Hyuga, Hinata frowned at this. Anko frowned because Hinata frowned. Why the long face, squirt? Kurenai stepped in and whispered in Anko's ears, I think her father disowned her, but I'm not quite sure what happened. Anko nodded with understanding. Well, I'll wait for both of you to get out the bath. And Anko skipped downstairs like an immature child. Kurenai sighed and looked at Hinata, who smiled. Kurenai picked her up and took her to the bedroom to get dry and changed. Hinata was not happy. She looked at the clothes, it was huge. And no underwear. But it was better than nothing. Kurenai sighed once more. I'm becoming like a Nara, Gomen, Hinata. But this is all I got. Hinata nodded, not quite knowing how to answer. Once both of them changed, they greeted Anko downstairs. Anko walked towards Hinata and ruffled her wet hair. You're going to be such a babe when you grow up. Anko-chan. What? Anko said innocently. Hinata was mortified. This woman was so out there. Kurenai changed the subject. Okay, Hinata. Can you please tell me what happened? Hinata knew this was coming and she prepared herself. She began to tell her story. Anyo. It first started out as a normal day. My Ka-san had just given birth to my Otuto a week ago. We were in the courtyard singing. Then, things got bad. Hinata started tearing up, but she bit back those tears to carry, Anko and Kurenai knew this must be hard to talk about, especially for a 4-year-old. More Hyugas was coming towards us. Flashback Hinata's POV. I was playing with the fishies in the pond. Ka-san was singing a lullaby to my Otudo Hinaro. Then my mother suddenly stopped singing. I was sad because I was enjoying it too and not just Hinaro. She quickly gave me Hinaro to hold. I've never held him before because I wasn't old enough. That's how I knew something was wrong. Ka-san pointed and said to me, "Those Hyugas are coming towards us too elegantly, Dontacha think Hina-chan." And I looked towards she was pointing. And she was right, they were coming towards us too elegantly. I started walking back on instinct to protect my Otudo who was crying slightly as if he knows what's going to happen. One Hyuga said, "Hinela Hyuga. You seem to be doing well after the birth." Ka-san put on a fake smile and said, "Well, yeah. Everything went swimmingly." At the corner of my eye, I saw a shining coming towards the Hyuga's hands. I didn't know what it was. It was a form of a knife, but I panicked and screamed, "Okaa-san, he's got a knife." The Hyugas started trying to hurt Ka-san, but because of my outburst she steadied herself to defend herself and us. She told me to run, but my legs were frozen, I couldn't move. Why won't I move? I started crying, because I was so scared. I didn't know what to do. What could I do? Nothing. I was just a scared little girl. Then Ka-san deflected a kunai coming towards me and I snapped back to the real world. And that's when a masked Hyuga came in and stabbed my mother repeatedly. Blood got on me and Hinaro and that made Hinaro cry even more and he knows that Ka-san was dead. The masked Hyuga tried to take Hinaro but I tried to not let him have him. But I was soon kicked in the face, and I fell backwards. I looked to the group of Hyugas, I could feel the evil radiating from them. A Hyuga stepped towards me. "You have been disowned by your father 2 months ago. I think you've overstayed your welcome." That's when I ran. So far. And so hard, and I ended up in the alleyway you found me. After the touching moment, Hinata promptly passed out. Anko said her farewells. Kurenai left Hinata while she put the washing up. After she was done, she took the time to analyze the little girl. Soft skin, shoulder-length hair which was dark as nice. A hair strand poking on top of her head. Kurenai giggled at that. Kawaii. Hinata was short even for a 4-year-old, everything about her was tiny, except for those bright white orbs. At that moment something changed in Yuhi Kurenai. She wanted to protect this girl with her life. She would raise her as her own, though she blushed hardcore. What would Asuma-kun say about this? She imagined Asuma saying, "I thought you were too young," or, "But you're only 17, with a giant smug smile on his face. She sighed. She was right about one thing. Raising this little girl would be hard, especially with Kurenai holding a dark secret. Kurenai walked over to the sleeping heiress and picked her up and went upstairs to bed. Kurenai was still seething about what her father used to do to her. Her crimson eyes narrowed. Blood will spill. It will be his. Kurenai propped Hinata down gently and laid next to her. As if on instinct Hinata clutched Kurenai's clothes and snuggled deeper, and Kurenai held her close too. This was a beginning of a new relationship. The next day, Kurenai woke up to Hinata missing. She started to panic. As she jumped up from bed, she bolted downstairs. To her relief, Hinata was making tea. Where the hell did she learn to make tea? I hope the Hyugas didn't force her. Kurenai walked up to Hinata. "Where did you learn how to make tea?" Hinata had a ghost smile on her face. "Anyo. I watched Ka-san make tea all the time. So I sorta learned it by watching." Kurenai was impressed. She learned this by watching. She would make a great ninja. At that thought, Kurenai paused. Hinata. A ninja. That could be perfect. A gentle girl with a lethal touch. Hinata held the tea in Kurenai's face, but Kurenai was too busy talking to herself, and staring into space. The heiress frowned and tried to get her attention. KKK Kurenai-san. No answer. Kurenai-san. No answer. Hinata was becoming a little annoyed. Kurenai-san. No answer. Hinata huffed. Kurenai-san. Kurenai jumped at the screech of a little girl, who was holding the tea with a clear look of annoyance on her face. Gomen Hina-chan. Kurenai looked guilty. I was just thinking about something. Hinata visibly perked up, as the unspoken question, what are you thinking about? Hinata, I was thinking about enrolling you in the Ninja Academy. Hinata was gobsmacked. She was terrible at socializing, she could never make friends, and she wasn't strong. Anyo. But I'm not. Saint Street strong enough to be a ninja. Kurenai held sympathy. She was the same when she first started the Ninja Academy, but then Kurenai remembered Hinata's father. She knelt down to Hinata's level. Hina-chan, did your father ever tell you that you were weak? Hinata looked crestfallen. How could she possibly know that? Hi. Hinata flinched. She hadn't known this woman long, but when she narrowed her eyes and mumbled bloody murder, Hinata knew she meant business. Kurenai smiled at Hinata after her little tantrum on the inside. Why don't I train you? You still have another 2 years to enter. I can prepare you. Till then. I'm not as strong myself, but I hope I can be stronger too. Hinata's eyes brightened. She was going to get stronger. She was going to get redemption. Kurenai looked at the little girl who was looking at her with inspiration. Kurenai had a thump in her chest along with some butterflies. The feeling felt well, really good. Hina-chan, before we get down for business, why don't I take you to the park? Hinata looked confused. But I didn't do anything to please you today. Kurenai again started mumbling bloody murder, cursing Hinata's father. She smiled at Hinata. It's because I'm not your father, and she winked at Hinata and went upstairs to run them both a bath. Hinata on the other hand was mortified with such language. But she smiled. It meant that this woman cared about her very much, and she thought swearing was cool. Hinata drank the rest of her tea, and skipped after Kurenai. How long is she willing to me stay? Hinata stopped skipping and walked upstairs solemnly. She leaned against the doorframe of the bathroom. Anyo, KK Kurenai-san. Yes, sweetheart. Hinata blushed at the new nickname. How long are you going to let me stay? Kurenai had a big smile plastered on her face. Until you're ready to have a place of your own. Supposedly when you're 25 years old. Hinata didn't know what to say, but gave a giant toothy grin in return. It's the first time Kurenai has ever seen her smile like that. It's better than that shy kawaii smile she usually does. Nay, you should smile more often. Hinata turned a ripe tomato color. She didn't realize how she was smiling, but smiled at the compliment and said, arigato. Hinata tried to think of a compliment in return. Quote. You should wear less makeup. Though, this wasn't a compliment to Kurenai, she into a corner with depression devouring her. Hinata would have panicked but Kurenai looked so silly, so she burst out laughing. Kurenai got out of her depression, when she heard the laugh that she wanted to hear without tickling. Yosh. Hinata. Bath now. Hi. Kurenai, before they went to the park, went shopping for new clothes for Hinata. Kurenai sighed. This is going to be a killer to my bank account. Hinata looked up at Kurenai and tugged on her hand worriedly. Is everything okay? She looked down on the small child before her, and twitched a smile. Yeah. Everything is going to be fine. They went into different stores, winter, autumn, and spring. Because it was summer now, they decided to get more clothes for it. Kurenai picked out an outfit for Hinata, consisting of a plain white shirt, with purple denim overalls, with lavender sandals and a purple bucket hat. Hinata questioned this. Kurenai-san, is purple your favorite color? No, it just suits you so much. My favorite color is red. Hinata nodded and smiled. You have pretty red eyes. Better compliment. Thank you, Hina-chan. Hinata decided to wear the purple denim outfit, since she does like purple very much. Kurenai held Hinata's hand and took her to the park. There were loads of other children from big clans here. The Akamichis, Choza, Chona and Choji. The Abarames, Shibi, Kimiko and Shino. The Harunos, Kozashi, Mebuki and Sakura. The Inazukas. Sume, Hana, Kiba and the pup Akamaru. The Naras. Shikaku, Yoshino, Shikarla and Shikamaru. The Yamanakas. Inoichi and Ino. Even the infamous Uchihas. Fugaku, Makoto, Itachi and Sasuke. Hinata wasn't concentrating on the clans and their children. One boy caught her eye. He was blonde, had lines on his face which looked funny, but most of all he looked lonely. Hinata looked to Kurenai for permission to talk to the boy, and Kurenai smiled and nodded. With that Hinata skipped off to talk to the mysterious weird-looking boy. She dragged her feet towards him, the nerves getting to the better of her. She looked back to Kurenai who nodded and mouthed, "You can do it." Hinata took a deep breath in, Anyo. Hinata bit her tongue too much stuttering. The boy looked up, his ocean blue eyes staring into her moon ones. She tried again, Anyo. Hello. The boy tipped his head to the side, as if she was weird. Hello. My name is Hi Hinata. The boy gave a toothy grin. Hey Hinata, I'm Uzumaki Naruto. I'm going to be Hokage, believe it. Hinata fell in her butt, and looked horrified. How can so much sound come out of a little boy? Though she admired his goal, and smiled. However, the whole park heard him, and they started laughing at him and some looked at him with disgust. Ahahaha, him Hokage. Demon. Horrible monster. Kill it before he kills us all. Wish the fourth Hokage killed you. Hinata didn't like what she was hearing. What does this all mean? She looked at Naruto who was close to tears. And he started running away screaming. I'm not a demon. I will become Hokage. Believe it. Believe it. Hinata stared in awe, and she heard Kurenai walking up to her. Hinata looked at Kurenai. He is the nicest person I met besides you. Even after they all called him names, he didn't call them names. Kurenai paused for a moment. Hinata was right. If she was him, she'd be swearing up a storm. She sweat dropped at the thought. Kurenai went back to thinking again. A demon. Fourth Hokage. Oh my god. It's him. Poor boy. He must be going through a lot. Kurenai placed a hand on Hinata's shoulder. I'm going to go look for him and invite to our place, so stay here and make new friends, k. Our place. I said that naturally. Hinata gave a toothy grin. Hi. With that Kurenai poofed in a puff of smoke. Hinata thought. I can't wait to do that. But she's such a show-off. Hinata went to meet other people. She went to a boy with a dog. His name was Kiba and the dog was Akamaru. They got along really well, but Hinata didn't like hanging a boy who smelled worse than the dog, so she quickly excused herself to play with other people. Kurenai's right. It's not so bad. She met a girl with blonde hair. My name is Ino Yamanaka. I love flowers. Wanna smell some? Ino said, shoving flowers into Hinata's face. Hinata had to decline. She was scared of Ino's straightforwardness and the fact she had really bad hay fever. Hinata went towards the family with pineapple-shaped hair. She sat down and tried to greet herself. But the youngest child said, Hyuga Hinata. No need to speak. I'm Nara Shikamaru. That's my Ni-chan Shikarla. My, Tu-san Shikaku. And my, Ka-san Yoshino. Yoshino bent down to Hinata's level. Hey there. You're so kawaii. Alarms was going off in Hinata's head. But she stayed, but she should have listened to her instincts. Yoshino pulled her into a big hug. Kawaii kawaii kawaii. Shikarla wasn't amused. Poor kid. She laid on the grass and stared up at the cloud. She should wish she was a cloud right now, so Ka-san wouldn't be able to touch her. The Nara boys did the same and at the same time said, exactly. A few moments later Hinata got out the strong grasp of Nara Yoshino. She was walking towards the Uchihas. She was close with Sasuke Uchiha already. She missed him. Hey Sassy-chan, Hinata greeted. Sasuke glomped Hinata. Hina-chan, where have you been? Hinata smiled shyly. Problems, but I'm okay. Sasuke gave her a grin. He was glad his friend was okay. Makoto glomped Hinata too. Oh my god, I'm so glad you're okay, worry filled with the young Uchiha woman's eyes. Makoto whispered into Hinata's ear, I know what happened, we'll talk about it when, whoever is looking after you comes back. Hinata, being an observant child, knows that Makoto knows her Ka-san is dead. Hinata started remembering bad memories. Sasuke came from behind and started tickling her. She went into a fit of laughter. This went on for about 5 minutes. She looked up to see Sasuke with an accomplished smile. WWW, what was that for? You were being sad. I don't like my best friend sad. Hinata grinned a toothy grin, but Makoto on the other hand knew this smile was fake. But didn't anything about it. Fugaku on the other hand mumbled under his breath, they should have left no witnesses. Makoto glared at him. She gave him the look of well, talk about this when we get home. Fugaku groaned, he knew he was going to get hurt by his wife. To Kurenai and Naruto. Kurenai searched high and low for this boy, Naruto Uzumaki. She could not find him anywhere, but she will not give up, she doesn't want to disappoint Hinata already. A gurgle came from her stomach. Erg, I'm hungry. She turned to the left and saw a ramen noodle shop. She entered the shop and she could not believe her eyes. Naruto Uzumaki was here. She whispered to the shop owner Ichiraku. How long has been here? 50 minutes. Kurenai's jaw dropped. That's when he left the park. She groaned inwardly. She took a seat next to the boy. Hello Blondie, my name is Yuhi Kurenai. The said Blondie turns towards her with a piece of noodle hanging from his lips. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. I'm going to become Hokage. Kurenai chuckled. He is an ambitious one. Are you okay from earlier? Naruto looked confused. The park? Kurenai prompted. Naruto looked down at his ramen. It's not fair. I'm not doing anything wrong. I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't do anything to offend them. So why are they mean to me? I only went to the park for some peace because I thought no one would be there. Kurenai's heart broke into a million pieces. His story must be worse than Hinata's. She snapped out of her thoughts when Naruto went on. They always call me a demon. Am I one? I don't own a mirror. I don't think I have a tail and sharp teeth. Kurenai, on motherly instinct, hugged the poor boy. Naruto tensed. He hadn't known what affectionate physical contact was. He was thinking, is she going to hurt me? He clenched his eyes shut to get ready for the oncoming pain, but it never came. He looked up to see a woman with ruby red eyes crying. He was really confused. You're not going to hurt me. No. Kurenai cried out. Why are you crying? Because you must have had a hard time. You're crying for me. Kurenai nodded. It did sound ridiculous, but it was true. Kurenai felt so much pain for this little boy. Naruto, would you like to stay at my place for the night? Quote. Naruto was thinking. He didn't know whether this was a good idea. Hinata will be there. Naruto perked up at this. The nice and only person to ever approach him. He was worried he won't ever see her again, but now he can see her. He gave a thumbs up and a bright toothy grin to Kurenai. Believe it. Kurenai rubbed her eyes. That boy's smile can rival Maida Guy's. Kurenai bent down and offered Naruto a piggyback ride. Naruto saw parents do this with their kids. He hesitated. Come on Naruto, I need to get you home, so I have a surprise for Hinata. Naruto, with the mention of Hinata's name, jumped on Kurenai's back. She went into her pockets to pay for the meals for Naruto. Ichiraku insisted it was on the house. All 23 bowls was on the house. I'm glad. Naruto found someone that can offer him happiness. So therefore it's free. Kurenai nodded with appreciation. This man cared for Naruto deeply. She will give the same amount of respect. Thus, Kurenai sprinted off to the house with Naruto on her back. Kurenai's sweat dropped. Maybe a piggyback wasn't such a good idea. As she arrived at her destination, he opened the door and let Naruto drop off her back on the sofa. Naruto, there's some orange juice in the fridge, and if you get hungry there's some chocolate, but don't eat all of it, because Hinata needs some too. Naruto nodded with understanding. Don't be too long, pleaded Naruto. Kurenai smiled and said she will be back with Hinata. With Hinata and everyone else. Hinata was sad. She thinks that something happened to Kurenai. Makoto misinterpreted as Hinata was sad because Kurenai wasn't coming and tried to reassure her, don't worry, my love. She will come back, as if on cue the said woman with crimson eyes made her appearance. Gomenasai Hina-chan. I could not find that boy any. Makoto butted in. When you are looking after a kid, you have so much responsibilities. You don't just leave her for over an hour. That's poor parenting. Don't you understand? She could have got kidnapped. She is the frickin' heiress for God's sake. Excuse me, I informed Hinata where I was going. Quit your bitchin'. I know Hinata's had a hard time. I know she may have trust issues. I know that I am not a suitable mother. I am only 17. Makoto gasped at this information. She's only 17. Kurenai went on. I don't think you understand Mrs. Uchiha-san. I know you have some kind of connection with Hinata, but let me tell you something. If a single hair is hurt on her little head, I will burn this world to the ground. Do I make myself clear? Makoto was shocked. How did this turn into her getting a lesson? She gulped and nodded and went to pick up Sasuke and leave with her family. Sasuke waved goodbye to Hinata. Bye-bye Hina-chan. Hinata waved back with the same enthusiasm. Bye-bye sassy Chaan. Kurenai was amused. Sassy-chan. Anyways Hinata, let's go. Is Nar? Ah. Kurenai picked up Hinata bridal style and sprinted on the rooftops. They arrived at the door and Hinata was put down, and Kurenai slowly opened the door. There waiting was a boy whose eyes were filled anticipation. Hello Hinata-chan. Hinata indeed fell on her butt, for the outburst of the same boy. She smiled shyly. Anyo, hello Naruto-kun. Naruto smiled affectionately. Hinata-chan, you're my first friend. And hugged her tightly. Hinata went bright red, and promptly passed out. Kurenai, interesting. I am loving this. Wait. Till Anko hears about this. Naruto was panicking. I've killed my first friend. Whatdoido what doido bayo. Kurenai raised an eyebrow. Bayo. I remember a red-haired woman always saying, Bane. As much as this was interesting, Kurenai calmed Naruto down. Kurenai got a cup of water and splashed it on Hinata's face. Hinata got up fast, too fast that she headbutted Naruto in the process. www Ois. Gomen Naruto-kun. Bahahaha. This is great. Kurenai was really amused by now. Kurenai left the young couple to play. She needed to get some shut-eye for herself. She woke up a few hours later to find Naruto and Hinata curled up together on the floor with chocolate with all over their faces. Kurenai sighed happily. That's so kawaii. Kurenai got her camera and took a picture. I'll show Hinata this in a couple of years. And she put it in her hidden collection of pictures. Kurenai got a wet cloth and wiped both of their mouths and carried them upstairs to the bed. I'll need to go to the Hokage tomorrow about Hinata's living arrangements. Or I'll have to find a new apartment. Kurenai pondered out loud. I'll need to go to the Hokage tomorrow about Hinata's living arrangements. Or I'll have to find a new apartment. Kurenai pondered out loud. 2-year time skip. First day at the academy. Hinata. Get up. Seriously. A small child groaned. She rubbed her tired eyes, and itched her unkempt eggplant hair and sat up. She checked her surroundings and laid back down to get that extra out of sleep. Bam. Hinata Anako Yuhi. Wake up. The said girl sat right up, and started flailing around and fell out of bed. Boot. Sleep. Today was September 4th. The new generation of Ninja Academy students is coming in today. Hinata is one of those students. I did not train you for 2 years to be lazy. So get dressed. The scolding person was 19-year-old Kurenai Yuhi, whose face was as red as her crimson luscious eyes. Kurenai started throwing clothes at Hinata. Each clothing item hit the poor young girl's face. Kurenai scolded. Now after, wash your face, eat that piece of toast on the table downstairs and brush your teeth, because we need to pick up the pace. We're going to be late for your first day at the academy. That sentence woke Hinata up, and the 6-year-old girl started picking the pace up. She completed dressing herself. She wore a purple short-sleeve hoodie, with white shorts and blue sandals. She brushed her unkempt shoulders length hair, and swept her fringe to the side. She quickly ran to the bathroom to wash up and sprinted downstairs. Kurenai was at the table calmly eating breakfast. Hinata was confused. Huh, I thought we were going to be late. Kurenai deviously smirked. Hinata did not like that at all. We're an hour and a half ahead of schedule. Hinata face floored. Are you kidding me, Kurenai, Ka-san? Kurenai just bursted out laughing. This was all a big joke to the woman. Hinata just cutely glared. I'll get her one day. Believe it. Now I'm sounding like him. This thought caused Hinata to blush heavily. Kurenai caught note of this. What are you thinking about? The crimson-eyed woman smirked very much so. Hinata, not wanted to be the victim of her surrogate mother's teasings, went to see the famous blonde with whisker birthmarks. With Naruto. The sounds of heavy snores were coming from the small one-bedroom apartment. The boy twitched as he heard knocking coming from his front door. More gentle knocks were coming and he groaned and got up. She dragged his feet and encountered the inevitable. He opened the door to see the girl that made him warm and fuzzy inside. Nata-chan. The suddenly wide-awake boy glomped Hinata on the doorstep. They both fell over. Nata-chan, you alright? There was no reply except for incoherent words and a tomato-faced Hinata. RRR Ruto-kun. Why you're squashing me? Naruto blinked a couple of times, and gave a toothy grin. Gomen. I'm just happy you came TT Ibeo. Hinata gave a shy smile at the boy, not knowing how to respond to that. Are you ready for the academy today? Naruto pondered at this for a while. He looked straight into Hinata's pearl eyes. I don't know TT Ibeo. Hinata knew this was the real Naruto talking. For the 2 years she knew him, she could tell Naruto had two sides. There was the side where he was carefree and happy, but that was because he forgets about he problems he has for just a while, and there's the other side. The side where Naruto is a depressed and not knowing kid. Hinata stared into his sky eyes, then sighed and pinched his cheeks until they went red. Nay, Ruto-kun, but it's exciting too. We might make new friends. Naruto gasped at this information. What if Nata-chan replaces me after she sees some cool kids? What if she finds better people than me? These thoughts started to plague Naruto, and Hinata had no idea what to do to help him. Naruto stopped his thought and gave a toothy grin. Yeah. That's great TTE Bayo. Hinata frowned. She hates it when he lies to her. He's her best friend now, after Sasuke went full douche. Flashback Hinata's POV. I was in the park, and picking the grass like a bored child I was. I was waiting for Naruto to come play with me, but knowing him he's always at least 20 minutes late, and I keep coming too early for him. Just annoying really. I look to my left and I see a figure coming towards me. Hina-chan. I stand up quickly and smiled widely. Sassy-chan. What are you doing out of your cage? Sasuke pouted at this. Quite funny actually. I got away from training, two sans being really harsh these days. I got bad memories after he said that. You're telling me. Sasuke looked at me sideways. Anywho, Hina-chan, you're going to the academy, right? Hi. Good. Because you would be the only person I trust and stuff. I have another friend called Naruto. Sasuke quirked his eyebrow upwards. What? The demon boy? What? No. He's not a demon. I furrowed my eyebrows in frustration, the cheek of some people. Sasuke had the nerve to shrug at me. It's what everyone calls him, so I'm gonna too. I smirked. If everyone started jumping off a cliff, would you jump? Sasuke paused for a moment and started mumbling to himself. I smiled in victory. Kurenai always used that one on me. She's right. It does feel good to say it to other people. I carried out my point. He is human. He looks human. He sounds human. He feels human. If I hear you talk bad about him again, I'll. Sasuke leaned in. You'll tell off of you, Sasuke gasped. Sasuke frowned. He's just a boy. What's so special about him? I bet he smells. I bet his parents didn't raise him properly. At that moment, a cup of ramen fell and spilled on the grass. Naruto was there with tears in his eyes and the look of betrayal plastered over his face. I tried to calm him down. Naruto-kun, please. Sasuke didn't mean it. Didn't you, Sasuke? Sasuke stuck to his guns. I meant every word. Your parents must be low-ranked citizens. Look at your clothes, they have holes in it. You must be poor. Hey, look, you're a demo. Slap. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to slap him to get him to stop. He's an orphan, Sasuke. This is it. I'm not your friend. Being a natural stuck-up Uchiha, he blew a raspberry at me. I don't want to be your friend. You're smelly. I frowned, but I took Naruto's hand and went home to tell Kurenai, Ka-san, about what happened. Present normal Pav. Whatever got Naruto upset, has now upset Hinata. She plucked up the courage and gave Naruto a tight hug. He tensed up at first since he was still new to affection towards him, but he slowly relaxed and returned the hug. Naruto looked up to see a woman hanging upside down taking a picture, then slowly put it back in her pocket. She slowly did the shush motion and Naruto obliged and didn't say anything. Kurenai jumped down. Well then, Naruto, go get dressed. Hinata eyes popped out and released Naruto from the hug, much to Naruto's disappointment. HHH, how long have you been there? Kurenai smirked at this. Long enough, Hina-chan. Long enough. Hinata whined. She knew she wouldn't hear the end of it, for another 2 months. Naruto got back fully dressed and prepped for academy, and the trio started walking towards their destination. Kurenai-chan, can I ask you a question? Shoot, kiddo, Kurenai said nonchalantly. Was the academy hard? Naruto inquired. Kurenai was put into deep concentration. Well, Naruto and Hinata both tipped their heads to the side cutely, waiting for the upcoming answer. Well, you will find out, won't you? Hinata face palmed and Naruto face floored. Kurenai barked with laughter. Whoosh. Sup, Nai-chan and kitties. Hinata wanted to leg it. Anko has gotten into the habit of kissing her forehead and skipped in front of Hinata and picked her up and gave a big kiss on her forehead. You're getting bigger every time I see ya. Next thing I know, you got tits and you're making out with Naruto. Kurenai growled. Anko, stop that. Not in front of the kids. Naruto and Hinata were both confused. Naruto asked, what is a tits? And Hinata asked, what is a making out? Kurenai blushed hardcore. See what you did, Anko-chan. They're only 6 years old. Anko just smiled at her best friend. She stopped the 2 kids who were now confused at life. Tits are what a woman will grow on her chest, and making out is, gawk, a frying pan out of nowhere hit the back of Anko's head. Nai-chan, what was that for? Anko pouted. Kurenai had a bulging vein on her head. They don't need to know yet. Hinata had a eureka moment. Anyo, so tits are the things that are on you and Kurenai, Ka-san's chest. Kurenai mentally face-palmed. Anko said she'd help me with Hinata, not make her grow up faster. We'll talk about this when you're older. Hinata nodded. Like how we will talk about menstrual cycle. Kurenai corrected. Hinata giggled and nodded. They were so tied up in their conversation that they were at the gates of the academy. Kurenai squealed. Ah, Hina-chan, you're finally here. And glomps her. Anko joined in. Naruto stood there, like he wasn't wanted. Kurenai mentally kicked herself. Naruto-kun, come here. You're a part of my family too. Naruto gave one of his rarest real smiles ever and joined in on the hug. This was soon ended by a voice. Disgusting. A girl with long dark green hair, and metallic black eyes, who was fairly pretty for a 6-year-old, looked down on them. Kurenai quirked an eyebrow. Excuse me, young lady. That hug was disgusting. Like your weird eyes. Kurenai growled at this. Anyo, you're not very nice. The girl looked at Hinata with disgust. Your eyes are even worse. Hinata was crestfallen. She didn't mean to offend the girl. Naruto didn't like this girl and decided he should step in. Don't talk to Hina-chan like that, or I'll pulverize you. You know how. It's because I'm going to be Hokage. Believe it tte bayo. Bahahaha. Wow, what a stupid kid. Anko decided this was enough. She summoned S from her arms and made them slither around the girl. What's your name, bratty female? My NN name is Aim Mishima. Anko snorted. You're from that shitty clan. If I were you, I'd shut your mouth. You're not all that. That little girl with the bright eyes is a Hyuga. So be careful where you step, little girl. Anko spat venom at the end of her rant. Aim nodded and ran inside to the other kids. Kurenai knelt down to the kids' level. If that Aim girl gives you a hard time, Hinata, do something about it. You are a princess of elegance, but you can always slap a bitch if you have to, K. Hinata's eyes widened. How can I slap a rude female? I can barely tap Naruto on the shoulder when I'm mad at him. Kurenai then turned to Naruto. Naruto, I want you to protect Hinata. I'm counting on you. I also want you to be careful. Anyone gives shit, don't hesitate to mouth off. And I want both of you to remember. Do not start the fight, you end the fight. You hear? Both children nodded their heads vagrantly. And they both headed to class. Late, because of Kurenai's lecture. They burst through the door. The sensei of the class immediately shouted. You're late. Simultaneously, they shouted, Go Menasai. All the other kids in the class giggle at the pair's antics. The sensei stated, My name is Yumino Iruka and I will be your sensei for the upcoming years. Now go sit down where there's a space. There were 2 seats that were available. They got lucky, however. Sasuke said, Hina-chan, sit next to me. Hinata frowned. She felt bad that her intentions were elsewhere, but Kurenai said she's her own person. If she wants to do something, and then she should do it. GGG Gomen, Sasuke-kun, but I'm sitting over her. She pointed towards the seats which Naruto was already sat at. Sasuke paused and didn't say a word back. He was brooding. Iruka-sensei started speaking. Yosh. Class, we're going to start by introducing ourselves. You say your names and state your goal for the future. I'll start. My name is Yumino Iruka and my goal is to see you all become successful ninja. The whole class smiled at this. Alright, you boy, start. Neither Hinata nor Naruto paid any attention to the first 5 students. Until it became interesting. A chubby boy with a bag of chips sitting next to a kid that was sleeping stood up and introduced himself. My name is Munch Akamichi Choji Munch Munch and my goal is Munch Munch is to lose weight. A blonde girl that Hinata swears she met before said, Well, you're going the right way about it, she sarcastically said. Choji sat back down with his feelings hurt. The next person introduced themselves. This boy was interesting also. My name is Aburame Shino. My goal is to make a new breed of my clan's bugs. Everyone mentally cringed. Iruka pointed at the boy with the dog. No dogs allowed, but just for today you can have him. The said kid jumped up with enthusiasm. My name is Inazuka Kiba and this is my buddy Akamaru. My goal is to become the leader of the pack. Loads of the boys sniggered and the girls cringed with disgust, muttering how bad he smells. One girl did catch Naruto's eyes. A girl with pink hair and emerald eyes stood up to introduce herself. My name is Haruno Sakura, and my goal is to become a strong independent woman and show men girls can become ninjas. All the girls nodded their heads except Hinata, who was looking at Naruto. Her stomach twisted when she saw the way Naruto looked at the girl Sakura. She didn't like it. Not one bit. The girl that gave Naruto and Hinata trouble this morning introduced herself. My name is Mishima Aim. My goal is to get the man of my dreams and to teach people that Mishimas are not weak. Both Hinata and Naruto snorted at this, a habit they picked up from Anko. Aim turned towards them. What is that, a problem? Was that funny? Naruto immediately apologized. Hinata on the other hand was the one that didn't, surprisingly. Aim walked over to Hinata and leaned over to give her the evils. Hinata gave one straight back but more intense. I still haven't forgiven her for this morning. Uruka came between the two girls. This is the first day and you both are already making enemies. The more allies you have, the better your life will be. Hinata spoke up and for the first time in her life, spoke with authority. Well, Uruka-sensei, the more allies you have, the more people you have to worry about having your trust. You never know who is an ally or the enemy nowadays. All of the boys looked towards Hinata in awe, while the rest of the girls just started mumbling, "What a show-off," and, "White-eye freak." Naruto gave another rare smile to Hinata, with a hidden meaning. "I'm proud of you." Hinata, only realizing what she had done and said, went bright red and apologized for her incompetence. Uruka forgave her and sent Aim back to her seat. "Next please." The sleeping kid who was awake for the drama stood up lazily with a hand in his pocket. He yawned. "My name is Nara Shikamaru. This is troublesome, my goal is troublesome." Troublesome? With the last troublesome he looked at Hinata. Hinata looked right back. She remembered him too. And his mother. I do not want to encounter her again. She mentally shudders at the thought. Uruka appointed Hinata to introduce herself. It seems like everyone was waiting for this moment. Which confused Hinata. She's not so exciting. My name is Yuhi Hinata. My goal for the future is currently none of your business. And she sat back down like an elegant princess. Everyone paused and gawped at Hinata. Naruto blinked twice and had burst out laughing. You're so funny TT Ibeo. Hinata went bright red. She hadn't intended to sound so rude, but she wanted to have the personality of Anko for the first day to make an impression. Flashback Hinata Pav. I was coloring my coloring books and Anko Ne-chan came in, wearing clothes that woman shouldn't wear. Kurenai, Ka-san says. "Whatcha doing, squirt?" "Coloring," I said without looking up, because the fear of being kissed on the forehead was so great. "So I heard you're going to the academy soon, so I wanna give you some pointers." I looked up and stared into her eyes, wanting more information. She looked so serious. This must be serious, I thought. She leaned in and quickly kissed my forehead. I complained. "That's not fair. You need to stop that." She barked with laughter and that just made me complain even more. Okay, Hina-chan. Be like me is how you'll get through the academy." I raised my eyebrows. "What? Dress like you and speak like you?" Anko smiled a toothy grin. Correctamundo. "Wait. No. Don't dress like me. Only dress like this when you get knockers." "What's knockers?" I tipped my head in confusion. She just giggles and changed it to the original subject. "Well, don't dress like me, but give an impression that you don't care about certain things. Especially if someone is giving you a hard time. Give them lip, hun. If you don't want to tell someone something, say it's none of their business. Most all, still uphold the elegance of a princess. Like you, Hinaheim." I blushed so hard at that. I hate and love that nickname. She always uses it when she wants me to listen. So I took her advice on seriously. I smiled at her and said, "Hi. Arigato, Anko Ne-chan." Present normal Pav. The next person to stand up was the girl Hinata is scared of socializing with. "My name is Yamanaka Ino and my goal is to collect all the rarest flowers in the world." Hinata smiled. Okay, maybe she isn't so bad. But she said something else. "And I want Sasuke-kun, all to myself." Hinata cringed. "Never mind, I take that back." All the boys groaned, and all the girls gave Ino the evils. Uruka chuckled and pointed towards the said Uchiha. He stood up. "My name is Uchiha Sasuke. My goal is to impress my two-san by becoming a success ninja and Uchiha. And I'll tell you what I don't like. I don't like girls that are not Hinata." Hinata went bright red and hid herself in her hoodie. Naruto got a twist in his stomach. He doesn't like this Uchiha dude. The class on the other hand was in uproar. How can he like her? She must be a witch. I can't stand her already. She's a poo-poo head. White-eye freak. Sasuke sat down feeling accomplished. Hinata on the other hand felt like crying. Everyone was so mean. Like Anko Ne-chan said. Don't show a sign of weakness or they'll attack it. Hinata, who was practicing for this moment, put on a straight face and a fake smile. Uruka showed surprise on his face. She handled that well. We might have a great ninja in the making. Last but not least, Whisker Face stand up. Naruto stood up with confidence. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, and I'm going to be Hokage Tte Bayo. Believe it. Everyone has per usual laughed, and it hurt him that Sakura was laughing too. Now, he'll take a piece of Anko's advice. Give them lip. You're all laughing now, but once I do become Hokage, I'll remember every single one of you and I'll revoke your ninja status. Believe it, Tte Bayo. Everyone stopped laughing at that. Uruka smiled. No one actually knows what the future holds. He might actually become Hokage. That Hinata girl was right about allies. Pick your allies wisely, because you'll never know who's got your back, till the very end, or the one who'll drop you at the very end. Naruto sat down with a giant grin plastered on his face. He whispered to Hinata, "You're right, this is exciting." She grinned in return. She shyly raised her hand for a high-five gesture. Naruto was in shock. He's never known Hinata to initiate the high-five. This must be a special day, thought Hinata. Naruto for the third time today has given one of his rare real smiles. And he slapped her hand for a high-five. They both giggle at each other's antics. It was the end of the day now, and the parents came to pick up their children. Naruto was at first upset because he had no parents, but Hinata reassured him that Kurenai and Anko are both picking them up. Thus, Naruto started smiling again. The duo saw the said women coming towards them. They both ran up to them and hugged them, and started spouting what happened during the day. Kurenai chuckled. Slow down, now tell me what happened. Naruto chirped. Hinata-chan kicked butt Tte Bayo. Kurenai raised an eyebrow at this. Hinata, however, went fully red. RRR Ruto-kun. Kurenai said. No, go on Naruto-kun. Naruto continued his antics. Hinata-chan was so cool. She didn't stutter. The girl aim got in her face, and then she completely owned the sensei by saying that you can't trust some of your allies and stuff, and she said it like she was a natural. And when it was her turn to introduce herself, she was like, my goal is none of your business, and like it was so cool. Naruto said, trying to imitate the things Hinata had said during the day. Kurenai looked towards to Anko. I know you had something to do with this, Anko-chan. Anko just sweat dropped and whistles. I don't know what you're talking about, Nai-chan. It looks like she held her own. It means you don't have to worry about her so much. Naruto butted in. I don't know about you guys, but I'm proud of Hinata. Kurenai stopped and stared at Hinata, who was trying to bury herself in her hoodie. You know what, Naruto? You're right. I'm darn proud of you, Hina-chan. Anko picked her up and kissed her forehead. Me too, squirt. I'm glad you took on your Nei-chan's advice. Hinata gave the biggest toothy grin she had ever done before. I'm proud of Naruto too. Even though people laughed at him for his goal, he showed them who's boss. I think he deserves a treat for ramen. Kurenai, Ka-san. Kurenai considered this for a moment and smiled. Yeah, okay, we'll go to Ichiraku. Naruto cheered. Yeah, Ichiraku. He turned to Hinata, smiled and gave her the peace sign. Hinata giggled and ran past him. Race you there, Ruto-kun. Ah, Nata-chan, that's not fair. Anko turned to Kurenai. They're both going to be great ninjas. One day. Kurenai sighed happily. Yup. All down to me. Anko glared at her. Okay, it's down to us, Kurenai corrected herself. Kurenai considered this for a moment and smiled. Yeah, okay, we'll go to Ichiraku's. Naruto cheered. Yeah, Ichiraku. He turned to Hinata, smiled and gave her the peace sign. Hinata giggled and ran past him. Race you there, Ruto-kun. Ah, Nata-chan, that's not fair. Anko turned to Kurenai. They're both going to be great ninjas. One day. Kurenai sighed happily. Yup. All down to me. Anko glared at her. Okay, it's down to us, Kurenai corrected herself. The crimson-eyed lady started sprinting towards the departing kids. Last one there is a rotten egg. Anko narrowed her eyes. I'll show you rotten egg, Nai-chan. Upon arriving at Ichiraku's, Hinata seemed to have got there first, giggling at Naruto's complaints about her cheating. The two adults arrived in tow, resulting it in a draw. However, Anko was having none of it. No, I definitely won that. My toe was obviously a few more inches in front than yours. You are the rotten egg, Nai-chan. The crimson-eyed woman rolled her eyes at the snake lady's antics. The woman knew of her friend's competitiveness, so she gave in. Alright, Anko-chan. You're right. I lost. I'm the rotten egg. Kurenai had said this with the laziest tone, as she wasn't going to entertain Anko's childishness. The woman's stomach seems to growl as she caught a whiff of Ichiraku's. Anko smirked at her mischievously. Are you hungry, Nai-chan? She said as she licked her lips. The woman before her had a pink blush appear on her cheeks and stuttered her response. Well, I'm hungry for food. Naruto quit his fast ramblings to Hinata and smiles widely at Kurenai's energetic outburst. And in reply he gave a much more energetic response and threw his arms in the air and charged into the small ramen stand he came to love. Ayame greeted the group with a smile. Hi you guys. It's been a while. Naruto wasted no time in ordering what he wants, and neither did Hinata. A year ago Naruto introduced Hinata to Ichiraku's, and now she's hooked on the stuff just as much as he is. Also, the fact she can have more bowls than Naruto says it all. Kurenai giggles at the pair's excitement. I don't know what you put in the stuff that makes these kids go crazy for, she remarked. Ayame smiled at Kurenai with such innocence and proceeded to say, if I told you that, then I'd have to kill you. Kurenai and the two kids gawked at the seemingly scary girl. Meanwhile, Anko silently admired her boldness to threaten ninjas. After a 2-minute silence passed, the two kids was eating at rather alarming speeds. Kurenai spoke up. Make sure you don't choke, you two. She got a simultaneous muffled reply. Tuki, the ramen shop owner, came from the back of the shop with the same wrinkly smile he has had for years and years. Naruto was still young, but when the boy came under malnourished begging for free food, he just couldn't refuse him. The boy had needed help. Tuki always told Naruto that he'd give him 3 free bowls if he didn't have any money. The boy never took advantage of his kindness, which Tuki was grateful for. Naruto, how have you been? Tuki Gigi. I've been okay. I had my first day at the academy today. It was really cool because Hinata kicked so much butt. She was so confident in herself. And I told everyone I'm gonna be Hokage and put them in their place, TTE Bayo. Tuki smiled at the boy's relay of how his day went at the academy. Even if he was just the ramen shop guy to Naruto, he'll always be proud of Naruto's successes. After they all finished their meals, Anko and Kurenai reluctantly paid with their money, and sweat dropped at their now light-weighted wallets. The four engaged in chatter and saw Naruto home, where he had went to bed happy, enjoying the day that he's had. Hinata received a piggyback ride on the way home from Anko and promptly fell asleep on her. Anko has always been an outgoing sort of woman, but for Hinata she'd always have a secret soft sister side towards her, and the little girl nuzzled into her neck. Anko wore a ghost smile. Kurenai spoke up, breaking the calm silence on their way home. Anko-chan. Anko ears perked up. What's up, Nai-chan? Kurenai blushed momentarily, which got Anko even more interested what she's got to say. Kurenai shut her eyes and took a deep breath to calm herself down. Anyo. She mentally cursed herself by picking up Hinata's nervous habit. Anyo. Gomen. I was just remembering us together. Anko's eyes widened at Kurenai's confession. In truth, before Asuma, Anko and Kurenai had been involved romantically at one point. Not as girlfriends, but as just lovers who were friends but satisfied each other. It feels like forever since then, but Anko slowly nodded. I used to be jealous of Asuma, you know. You weren't mine, but I was still territorial. But he treats you right, Kurenai. After hearing being called by her full name, she knew that Anko wasn't playing around. She watched her best friend's face. it was filled with sadness and confusion. We had great times, you were my little dirty secret. That I was glad to keep, even though we weren't really that much, but it helped with loneliness. But the past is the past. We've moved on, you've got your guy and I'll get someone who'll handle my crazy. Red eyes widened at this confession, but she giggled at the end. No matter how serious the topic is, or how uncomfortable it makes her, she'll always find a way to make it light so it's easier to comprehend the situation. It was at this conversation that Kurenai knew. Anko-chan, I love you. I always will. You're always my best friend. I love you too, Nai-chan. I wanna be your maid of honor though when you get married. At this Kurenai stuttered out a response, again cursing herself for obtaining Hinata's nervous habit. Upon entering Kurenai's home, Anko immediately went upstairs to put Hinata to bed. It was surprising to say the least. Kurenai had never seen Anko show a child that much care, but it was refreshing to know that her best friend isn't completely disgruntled by the idea of kids. Back in the day she'd call them, disgusting advantage-taking small humans. Although, it was funny back then, but it's nice to know that Anko had grown up over the years. Maybe it was the small Hyuga girl she had taken under her wing that changed that. Anko silently came downstairs to see Kurenai with a huge grin on her face. What? Nothing, Kurenai said with a smile. Anko visibly twitched. What is it? Oh, nothing, nothing. As her smile widened. Kurenai, what is it? It's just that you seem so caring and attentive towards Hina-chan, who is a child, and I never expected you to be so caring. Anko finished. Kurenai nodded, hoping she didn't mean to offend. You're forgetting I was with you that night. When she told us that dreadful story. I don't know. I had the urge to protect her. With my life. If it ever came down to it. Kurenai was deep in thought. I never knew she felt this strongly towards Hina-chan. I think it's actually made her into a better person. Well, Nai-chan, I'm going to get pounded soon. So I'll see ya whenever. And she poofed in a puff of smoke. The red-eyed woman frowned at Anko's choice of words. Maybe not that much of a better person. She chuckled to herself and went over to prepare dinner. There was 3 knocks on the door and a ping. She smiled happily and shuffled towards the door and opened it with open arms at the ready. She was then embraced by this rather muscular man with a beard growing out and a cigarette in his mouth. I missed you too, pretty lady, he said with a smug tone. Asuma-kun, I was just about to get dinner started. She gave him a swift kiss and led him inside. Asuma took this time to analyze the beauty that Kami himself bestowed upon him. The pale creamy skin and the curly black hair of a goddess, his woman, Kurenai had possessed. Her curves with proportion just in all the right places, just for him. And only him. Not only did she look remarkable, her cooking was to die for, her caring nature you could fall in love with over and over again, and her power as a kunoichi even more attractive. He groaned quietly, wanting her right now, but he held himself back as he knew there was a child present in the house. Not that he minded Hinata, he sees her like a daughter. But as kids always have done, they get in the way of things. Kurenai's voice pulled him out of his thoughts. You should really quit those things. Referring to cigarettes. That would mean giving up something I love. That's like saying I should quit you. No doubt I'm addicted to you. Kurenai could feel her face heat up. Asuma always knew what to say, he was just that guy. She walked over to him coyly and closed in the distance between their lips. Both of their hearts racing, their tongues dancing with one another, and their eyes closed to feel the intensity of their love. Asuma's hand made its way up to Kurenai's, giving it a slight squeeze. She gasped in response to his hands doing the talking. Forgetting where they were, they failed to hear the gentle footsteps coming down the stairs. A moan had escaped Kurenai's lips, lost in Asuma's pleasure-giving. Anyo. Kurenai. Ka-san. This immediately caused Kurenai to jump up and look towards the little girl with a clear look of confusion. She was blushing heavily, but despite what just happened she kept a calm tone of a voice. Why yes, Hina-chan. Now, Hinata wasn't a stupid kid, she knew they were doing very grown-up things. Anko had told her some things before and Hinata confidently nodded towards Kurenai and Asuma. I know what you were doing. It's okay. This is the start to baby making. I don't mind a little brother or sister, she finished with a wide toothy grin. This however did not make the crimson-eyed woman any better. She tried thinking of a response but she was too embarrassed to say anything. Asuma decided to speak up. Hina-chan, me and Kurenai wasn't going to make a baby. We simply were showing how we love each other, which adults do in a relationship. Kurenai silently thanked her boyfriend's quick answers to help a person understand the situation. He'd always take the initiative, which she found endearing and attractive. Hinata's face scrunched up in confusion. So the kissing doesn't lead to babies. Not all the time, princess. Hinata nodded at her surrogate father and smiled. She understood now. Asuma held out his arms with a pout, seemingly wanting something. You never gave Papa a hug, princess. Hinata visibly brightened and tackled Asuma into a hug and snuggled. He was much different from her actual father. He was gentle, kind, hardly ever raised his voice and gave hugs. As Kurenai looked on at this sight, she couldn't help but think about what Hinata had said. Does she really want a little brother or sister? She shook her head. It was too early to have a child between her and Asuma. Hinata was enough, and to be honest, Naruto was coming close to another child they're looking after. The trio sat down at the table and ate their dinner, chatting away at today's events and getting onto the topic of training. Hina-chan, since you've officially in ninja training regime, it's about time I start training you myself. To help you progress faster. Kurenai. Ka-san, what if I'm not strong enough to be a ninja? FFA. Hiyashi-sama always said I was too weak like, Ka-san. Kurenai slammed the table with her fist, remembering her anger towards the man. Looked at her daughter in the eye. Hinata. Yuhi. That man doesn't know shit about you. He didn't give you a chance. Your mother was strong. Having a gentle nature doesn't making you weak, understand me? Hinata was shocked at her surrogate mother's language. She doesn't usually swear often unless she was passionate about it. She really thinks I can be strong, and I'm going to prove her right. With a determined nod, she gave a loud, strong affirmative. Hi. Asuma shook his head at this relationship. It was funny, remembering how Kurenai seemingly wasn't ready for kids, but here she is raising a child who wasn't even hers. A smile formed on his lips, as Kurenai looked at him, and so did Hinata. He knew that he was a part of this family. Come on, Hina-chan, it's time for bed. I don't want to. The small white-eyed girl complained. Kurenai frowned at this behavior. Usually she doesn't straight out disobey what was commanded of her, but ever since she met Naruto that changed. Not that it was a bad thing. Naruto had helped her learn that she can deny something if she didn't want to do it. But this is something she cannot say no to. Sleep helps you recover your strength, don't argue. And with that final sentence, the ex-Hyuga heiress waddled upstairs to bed. Asuma chuckled, which caught Kurenai's attention. What is it, Asuma-kun? You're going to have your hands full with that one, Kurenai. I'm telling you. Kurenai shot an incredulous look at him. Sweet, innocent, and gentle Hinata. Hands full. To be honest, I'm scared of what kind of girl she will grow up to be. Especially with Anko influencing her. She sighed. Maybe you're right. But I'll do my best with her. I know you will. I don't doubt it. The crimson-eyed beauty smiled at her boyfriend. Things might not be so bad. In the vast training field, Kurenai was training early hours of the morning with the now 10-year-old Hinata in close combat. Over the years, the girl seemingly had a good grasp on chakra control. She was able to climb trees with just her feet at a young age, which surprised Kurenai. Maybe it was because she was a Hyuga by blood, or maybe she had the wrong teacher. Hinata's close combat was fairly good. The Jiyuken style that her family tried to raise her to use wasn't fit for her body. It was too brash and heavy, whereas Hinata is more of a flexible fighter. During sparring, Naruto would often train with them for it to be suitable for Hinata's size. Naruto wasn't bad at close combat either. He was a good brawler and his imagination to catch people off guard helps with surprise attacks. However, his chakra control was poor, not doubt because of the QB. With that thought, it saddened her. The boy has so much pain and she could hardly do anything about it. Unwanted attention from the villagers must get to the boy. She was too lost in her own thoughts that she forgot she was sparring Hinata, and the little girl did a leg sweep and knocked the older woman down. Hinata tipped her head in confusion. This was unlike her mother, Sensei, to get caught off guard with such a simple move. Are you okay, Kurenai? Ka-san? You normally wouldn't get taken down like that. She trailed off. The woman on the floor closed her eyes thinking for a moment. Hinata, can I ask you a question? Hi. She watched the older woman's body language. It was hard to tell what she was feeling. Do you ever get sad about Naruto? This caught Hinata off guard and a bright blush appeared on her face. Why are you asking me that? It was no secret and it was obvious that her little Hinata had developed a crush on the boy over the years. Kurenai always kept a camera when she caught the pair do something adorable and kept her own picture book to show Hinata and Naruto when they're older. No doubt they will get together in future. Does there have to be a reason when I ask if you get sad about your best friend? She said with the most innocent voice. Anyo, I do. When I see that he gets mistreated by villagers, shopkeepers, and when he gets laughed at the AA Academy, it makes me sad because I feel like I can't do anything to stop it. She trailed off, getting a little too passionate as she didn't want to give the impression that she likes Naruto even though it was greatly obvious to all adults. Kurenai smiled and kisses Hinata's forehead and ruffles the midnight blue hair. I feel the same way, Hina-chan. This form of affection surprised Hinata. Even after a few years of Kurenai showing her affection, it still made her warm and fuzzy as she wasn't used to it when she was younger. The blush deepened on her face and brightened at an idea. Can Ruto-kun come over after academy finishes? Sure. But no sweets today. You two last week went overboard. Hinata dropped her head in disappointed at the news. It was now time to head to the academy. Hinata had mixed emotions about the academy. The students there were mean sometimes, but there were nice people too. One of the main reasons she didn't like the academy is because of the fights Naruto and Sasuke get into. Sasuke would always start the fights because Naruto took what Kurenai had said to heart. Don't start fights, end them. Hinata waved Kurenai by and entered the building and made her way to the classroom. It was hectic as ever before Iruka comes. She smiled as she saw Naruto talking with Shikamaru. She had always liked Shikamaru. He was lazy, but once you get to know him, he was really nice. Nata-chan, Ohio, Ruto-kun. She smiled at the attention he'd always given her. However, that attention was quickly diminished as Sakura entered the classroom and Naruto's eyes was set on her. Hinata didn't know why Naruto even likes her. She had been mean to him from the start. Only because she's pretty, Hinata had said in her head, then finished it with, pretty ugly. Now, Hinata isn't a girl to insult a person's beauty. She was referring to her character as a person. Of course, the pinkett made her way over to Sasuke, who was brooding as usual. Ever since she stopped being friends with Sasuke, he's become such a spoiled brat who thinks he's better than everyone because he's an Uchiha. It made her sad. He was always been a generous child, but ever since that incident with Naruto he became such an. Hinata mentally berated herself for allowing Anko's language affect her language. Shikamaru broke Hinata out of her thoughts. Mendokusai. She giggled at this, which was his catchphrase. There was a point where she hung out with Shikamaru so much she started saying it too. The Nara boy smiled as he was able to make the pale-eyed girl smile and take her mind off of Naruto swooning over Sakura. Anyo Shikamaru-kun, how's your sister? He grunted in response. She has a temper like Ka-san, but she chills with me to watch clouds sometimes. The Nara clan had invited Hinata and Naruto over sometimes to play. At first they were skeptical because of Naruto's status, but after one play session he was a bundle of joy who never hurt anyone. The trio had been close and Choji from the Akamichi clan came from time to time too. Naruto. Leave me alone. You're disturbing Sasuke-kun. As a matter of fact, you are disturbing me, Dobi. Naruto ignored Sasuke. Ah, come on Sakura-chan. Don't be like that, I just want to hang out with you. Sakura snorted with disgust. Why would I ever hang out with the likes of you? You're annoying, disgusting and you're not Sasuke-kun. Naruto was deeply hurt by this but he kept a huge smile on his face anyways. Hinata had enough of Sakura, so she got up from her seat and walked down to the girl who straight out disrespected her best friend. She mustered up the courage. Sakura-san, what you said to Ruto-kun wasn't very nice. He's not very nice. Look at him. Hinata had slowly narrowed her eyes. This made Sakura shake slightly. Sasuke raised an eyebrow at this. Your attitude is very distasteful. You don't even know him, and I'm sure you don't know Sassy-chan either. Sasuke's eyes widened at this, he hadn't heard that nickname for years. Sakura was just as surprised as well as angry. How dare Hinata give my Sasuke-kun a nickname? How dare you give my Sasuke-kun a nickname? You bitch. Naruto gawked at Sakura at this, the girl just called his best friend a mean word. He didn't know how to react properly. However, this did not faze Hinata. If I'm a bitch then what does that make you Sakura-san? I'm not the one constantly insulting someone after all they wanted to do was hang out, and never even said an insult back. Everyone mentally agreed at this, as much as they wanted to deny it because it was involving Naruto, Hinata was very right. He was just trying to be nice. Everyone got the message but Sakura. He was disturbing Sasuke-kun, that's why I insulted him. And she shoved Hinata to the floor. This caught Hinata off guard as she wasn't expecting to be pushed. Aim walked through the door and saw Hinata on the floor. She smirked at this, because finally Hinata would get what was coming to her. However, what happened next caused everyone to drop their jaws. Hinata got up and slapped Sakura and tackled her to the floor. She raised her fist to punch Sakura in the face, and Sakura flinched not knowing what to do. Iruka appeared holding Hinata's raised fist. Sakura looked deep into Hinata's eyes, it was so wide, and it was purple. It quickly faded back to being pale. It was brief but it was definitely there. Iruka was disappointed with Hinata. She was usually calm and collected but deep down he was glad she was going to stand her ground. Her shy and timid nature made him worry about her future as a ninja. Iruka dragged Hinata off of Sakura and told her to go to her seat, and she did as she was told. And then the same for everyone else. The classroom was quiet, so abnormally quiet. Even the talkative Kiba wasn't talking. The day went by fast, and Sakura couldn't wait to go home. She was terrified of Hinata, she thought that she'd try and get her after academy was finished. Even though Iruka had asked Hinata to stay behind after, it still made her paranoid. With Iruka and Hinata, I am disappointed at the way you handled yourself today. The ex-Hyuga heiress dropped her head as a habit when she gets scolded. She hadn't mean to lose her cool but it was a build-up of anger towards Sakura over the years. I know. Iruka-sensei but she was being so she caught herself blushing madly, again cursing Anko for allowing her vulgar language to affect her own. Iruka raised an eyebrow at this. She continued. She was being so mean towards Ruto-kun and it's been happening for a while, and I've had enough of it. He already has other people being mean to him who don't even go to the academy and it isn't fair. She shouted towards the end with tears streaming down her face. Iruka was taken back by her outburst. It's not every day the quietest child in his class screaming at him. He knelt down to her level. Hinata, it is okay to defend Naruto but don't encourage the violence among comrades. I know you're better than that. I'm glad Naruto has you as a friend. Not a lot of people will be willing to defend him. So dry your eyes, you didn't do an entirely bad thing but you went about it the wrong way. Okay. Hinata used her hands to wipe her eyes and nodded at Iruka's helpful lecture. Hi, Iruka-sensei. At home, Hinata had made it home to be greeted by Naruto. Kurenai left to go for a mission so she couldn't stay and entrusted the kids to be safe in the house alone. The two kids played with each other and enjoyed each other's company, however something was bugging Naruto. "Nay, Nata-chan," he said unusually calm. "Hi, Ruto-kun. Why did you do what you did to Sakura? You didn't have to go that far Ibeo." He trailed off. She wasn't believing what she was hearing. After she tried defending him, he still thinks Sakura is a goddess. She didn't notice him drop the chan suffix from her name. "Naruto, she was being rude to you. Did you expect me to step back? Did I mess up your chances of being with Sakura? Huh, did I?" She raised her voice at Naruto. He went wide-eyed and looked down. He was silent for a moment. "I'm grateful. Nata-chan, today made me realize that I was too busy trying to get her attention that I don't need it. You're my best friend after all. All I need is your attention to keep me happy." He finished with his trademark toothy foxy grin. Hinata blushed heavily at this. It almost sounded like a love confession. "Ruto-kun, I'm sorry I shouted at you. It's just it hurt. When she was treating you like crossing." Naruto was going closer to her face, and her face lit up quickly. Suddenly there was a flash. Hinata's stomach dropped. Isn't this a cute scene? It was even worse. Hinata had thought it was Kurenai back from her mission, but it was Anko. Of all people, it had to be Anko. The bright red girl stumbled backwards, stuttering out a response. Anko Nichan. What are you doing? Keep an evidence that you were behaving for when Nai-chan comes back." Naruto didn't know what just happened. All he was doing was staring into Hinata's eyes. There was something about them that seemed different. But he grinned at Anko's entrance. "Anko Nichan," and tackled her into a hug. The woman in the trench coat was knocked down by such a small child, and awkwardly patted his head. "All right, Naruto, get off me. Anyways, Nai-chan told me to check up on you too whenever I was free. So here I am." The children nodded. Silence. Anko hated silence, so she had a suggestion. "Why don't we have a sparring match?" Hinata visibly brightened at this. It wasn't every day she got to spar with Anko. However, Naruto wasn't feeling up to it today. Which was fine, but it was weird seeing as he would always jump at the opportunity to improve. Anko grabbed the two kids and poofed in smoke and ended up in the training grounds. Training ground. Anko and Hinata took their stances. The ponytailed woman analyzed the little girl's stance. It was strong and confident. Hinata then charged at her with an alarming speed and blocked a kick with her hand. Anko is so caught off guard. Hinata used Anko's hand as a spring and jumped and used her other leg to kick her in the face. Anko flipped backwards in time not to receive a kick to the face. What the hell is Kurenai teaching this child? Anko was on the defense while Hinata was pushing her to her limits. The girl was seriously good at combat. Anko was going to form a jutsu, but forgetting Hinata was only 10. Hinata saw this and formed hand seals. "Kaden. Gukaku no jutsu." Anko screamed in her head. "What the?" She just about flipped out the way and dodged in time. How the hell does a 10-year-old have enough chakra for AC rank jutsu? And why was her fireball purple? Anko decided to get serious with Hinata and sped at her and gave a kick to her stomach, causing Hinata to go flying and hit a tree. Hinata coughed as she got the wind knocked out of her. "I shouldn't have used that jutsu, it took too much chakra." She looked up to see Anko right above her, and Hinata rolled out of the way and jumped up as Anko was about to deliver a punch. Hinata got out some kunai and threw it at Anko. The more experienced woman caught with her hand beside her face. "Nice try, squirt." Hinata smirked, and her lips formed the words. Boom. Anko's eyes widened and the explosion went off. Naruto looked on horrified. He had thought Hinata was kicking, but she went too far with a paper bomb kunai. Even Hinata was horrified what she had done. She was too busy trying to win she forgot to be careful because it was just a friendly spar. As the smoke cleared up, it was just a pile of wood there. Her eyes widened. "Kawarimi no Justsu. She then felt a sharp point at her neck. Haha. Gotcha. Hinata sighed in disappointment. I died. Anko could sense her little sister's disappointment. Don't be down, squirt. You really had me on the ropes there a little bit. You caught me off guard, which is good. And that fire jutsu. Really? WHO taught you that? Hinata blushed at the praise she was getting. Naruto then ran up and hugged her and cheered for her. You were so cool out there, TTE Bayo. She blushed even harder at Naruto's praise and his close contact, wishing the moment had never ended. Again. Another flash. She glared at Anko, and the said woman gave a smirk in return. Anko shunshined the kids back to the house just as Kurenai got home. Home. Have you been behaving? The two kids nodded with a simultaneous response. Hi, she smiled. I wasn't talking to you two. I was talking to Anko-chan. The crimson-eyed woman joked. Ha ha. Nai-chan. You're so hilarious. The snake woman mocked. I am, aren't I? Naruto yawned as he was about to go home. I'm going to go home, TT Ibeo. Kurenai looked at the time. She didn't want Naruto go home at this time. Naruto, how about you stay over? Naruto blushed for once. He hadn't expected anyone to let him stay over. It's been 4 years ever since he met Hinata and Kurenai, but not once has he stayed over. He smiled widely and nodded his head vigorously. Kurenai had laid out a spare futon in Hinata's room. Hinata and Naruto were roughly the same size and he used one of Hinata's shorts and top for PJs. It was purple, but Naruto didn't mind, he was just happy he gets to stay over. It was in the middle of the night and Kurenai was fast asleep. Naruto couldn't sleep, he wasn't comfortable. He called out to the sleeping girl on the bed. Nay, Nata-chan. No answer. He tried whispering a little louder. Nata-chan. No answer. He sighed. He looked at the bed and he decided to crawl in the bed with the sleeping Hinata. He looked at her sleeping face. She's pretty, he noted. He dozed off gazing at Hinata's peaceful sleeping face. Kurenai had woken up in the middle of the night to pee. She went to check on the kids to see how they were. She was surprised at the sight. Naruto and Hinata were facing each other sleeping away blissfully. She went to go get her camera and came back at the cute scene. Flash. She cringed as she forgot to take it off, but none of the kids even twitched. She sighed in relief. This was definitely amongst her favorites of Naruhina moments. She went back to bed smiling, glad that the two of them found each other in loneliness. Kurenai awoke with a squeal and thud sound in tow. She smirked and got up to see what the fussing was about. She greeted with the sight of Hinata red-faced on the floor, hyperventilating. The woman couldn't take it anymore and she burst out laughing. KKKKKK Kurenai, Ka-san. Hinata was fuming at her mother figure but was also highly embarrassed, waking up inches away from her crush's face. She had immediately rolled away when she realized how close she was. Kurenai had gotten over her laughing fit, surprised that Naruto hasn't even woken up. Shaking her head, she went down to prepare breakfast for the kids. Hinata sat red-faced at the table waiting for her breakfast. Thinking about how close Naruto had been and in the same bed. Kurenai had a knowing smile on her face and decided to tease Hinata for a little bit. Did you enjoy waking up to your boyfriend this morning? The girl in her bunny PJs gasped. WWWWW, what are you talking about? She said, trying to be stern at the end. You know what I mean, Hina-chan. Kurenai said in the teasing voice. The little girl pouted. She hated when Kurenai does this. Despite her protests and complaints, Kurenai kept teasing her until speedy footsteps came down the stairs. Kurenai whispered, looks like your boyfriend is awake. Hinata was about to retort to this, but she shut up as Naruto walked in. Ohio. Nata-chan and Nai-ni-chan. Ohio. Ruto-kun. Ohio. Naruto. Sleep well. This question got Naruto and Hinata flustered. Naruto knew he had crawled in with Hinata on a whim, only now realizing what he did. Flash. Another picture. Naruto groaned. I hate you and Anko-ni-chan sometimes. I agree with Ruto-kun. Kurenai belted out another laughter. This was too much for her. After breakfast was finished, the kids got dressed and headed to the academy. Kurenai sighed. She was on her day off and decided to head back to bed. She didn't want to wake up so early, but she had to get the kids fed and ready. She lay on her bed, closing her eyes deep within her thoughts. I wonder how long will it be before the Hyuga clan will do anything. I haven't fully adopted Hinata, but she's still under my care for the time being. I might actually go to the Hokage to get full custody over her. It's been fully 4 years, and not once has any Hyuga came up to me. I love her like my own. Who am I kidding? She is my own at this point. A man with a deep voice had interrupted her thoughts. What's shaken? Good looking. Kurenai smiled with her eyes still shut. Her boyfriend was so silly. Asuma-kun, you do realize I have a front door. The man chuckled. What's the point when my destination would be this very room? Kurenai blushed, which could rival Hinata's, knowing what his intentions were. She looked up him as he approached her. A few hours had passed since Kurenai and Asuma had their intimate time. Red eyes slowly opened, finding herself lying on the chest of her lover who was still asleep. She smiled at him. It's been 5 years since they had gotten together and never felt more passionate. He always satisfied her just how she wanted, and she hoped she did for him. She checked the time and sighed in relief as the Hinata would not be back from the academy yet. Still got another 2 hours. She slowly got out of bed carefully to not wake Asuma and went to go run herself a shower. She wobbled a little bit, then catching her balance. Yup. After 5 years and the still does this to me. She glided into the bathroom happily and turned on the shower and stepped inside. Letting the water wash away her sweat, a nice cold shower after steamy hot was one of the best feelings in the world. I wonder when Asuma will pop the question. Would I be ready for it? Do I want to be married? Kurenai Sarutobi. The woman blushed at this. Even as a mature adult, she still gets giddy over girly things. The doorbell shifted Kurenai out of her thoughts and she turned off the shower, stepping out and wrapping her body in a towel. She made her way downstairs as the doorbell was ringing furiously, which ticked her a little off. It was probably Anko. Jesus in Christ, Anko, don't you ever use the ing spare key I ga aaveu. As Kurenai furiously opened the door, she saw none other than Kazashi and Mebuki Haruno. The towel-clad woman looked like a deer caught in headlights. A very deer. Kurenai slammed the door on a whim, making the parents of the Pinkett jump slightly. Then the woman opened the door again. See, come inside. The married couple reluctantly went inside. Just hold on while I get dressed. She rushed upstairs, leaving the Haruno couple to their thoughts. Kurenai hissed in embarrassment. Couldn't have they made an arrangement or something? She furiously was searching for some clothes to put on around the house. Asuma stirred slightly and she whipped his side with the towel. Arg. What the hell, Kurenai-chan? Get up. We've got visitors. Go in the shower, she said as she rushed back down the stairs, her hair still wet from the shower. Sorry for the wait, it's hard to get organized as I wasn't expecting any visitors. Mebuki noticed that little jab but said nothing about it. Kazashi spoke up. Very well. We are here to discuss your Hinata's behavior at the academy yesterday. We went to the Hyuga household to talk about her and they gave us this address. This got Kurenai's attention. So the Hyuga are aware that I have Hinata in my care, but still nothing. Behavior. She's usually a good student. I know that for a complete fact. That may be so, Kurenai-san, but yesterday she had assaulted my daughter. His tone of voice rising slightly. Kurenai widened her eyes at this. This was the first she had heard about this. Neither Naruto or Hinata spoke about it. She knows Hinata would never start fights, unless. Could you relay what happened, Kazashi-san? Mebuki spoke up. That does not really matter as my daughter had red cheek when she came home. Kurenai visibly sighed. That's like saying someone slapping your daughter after she slept with someone else's partner, but she's off the hook because she got a slap. Mebuki and Kazashi stared at the woman as if she's serious. That doesn't sound like our Sakura at all. Neither does my Hinata sound like an assaulter for no apparent reason. Kurenai spat the end of sentence with venom. This caught the two parents off guard. It does sound silly with how they are accusing the little girl they haven't met. Sakura told me that she got slapped and almost throttled by Hinata for no reason. She apparently came out of nowhere. Being blinded by their anger, they failed to see the truth in what their daughter was saying. Well, there you go. I do not think Hinata would ever start a fight unless someone touches her first. That's what I raised her to do. Don't start fights, but to end them. Asuma walked downstairs fully dressed after his shower. Princess would never hurt a fly if it stung her, let alone attacking another comrade without reason. The couple nodded at this and bowed. Kazashi apologized for their disturbance and left. Kurenai frowned. Why didn't Hinata or Naruto tell us about this? Asuma shrugged at the question. Maybe it was going to be their secret. He kissed her cheek and made his way to leave. So that's it then, Asuma-kun. Yup. Come and leave the fun. Kurenai giggled. Ejaculate and evacuate. Asuma walked back to her and gave her a long intense kiss. I love you, Kurenai-chan. She blushed lightly. I love you too, Asuma-kun. The man she loved then left, and she sighed. She was going to have a word with Hinata when she gets home. At the academy, Hinata was sitting at a lunch table in the shade with Naruto. She had been getting stares ever since yesterday, she sighed. She didn't want this to happen. It was either hateful glares or respectful gazes. Ino Yamanaka walked up to the inseparable duo. Hinata had a dread building up in her stomach. I heard what you did to Billboard Brow yesterday. Hi. Well, I must say, Hinata-chan, you're awesome. No one really has the guts to stick up to that 8-head. Anyo. I wouldn't have done anything if she didn't push me to the floor. She trailed off. Naruto looked at how uncomfortable Hinata was. He decided to step in. Ino, can you leave? Nata-chan alone. She already feels terrible for what she did to Ibeo. The ice blonde raised her eyebrow at this. Are you two going out? This caused Hinata to immediately go bright red and buried herself in her hoodie, which was black with a red line going down the sleeves. Naruto, however, didn't understand she meant. Going out. We're not going out anywhere. No, stupid. But that just says it all. Hey Hinata-chan, how about we hang out today after school? I could do with a friend. She said as she winked at the red-ripe girl. The whisker-face boy looked at this. Nata-chan is my friend and now all of a sudden she's getting attention. I don't like it. Just make sure you get back not too late, Nata-chan. I'll be at Kurenai-ni-chan's. Hinata nodded. Who's Kurenai? The ex-Hyuga heiress looked down at her hands on the table. She's the woman who I live with. Don't you live with your family, the Hyuga? They are not my family. With venom dripping off every word. Naruto looked on at Hinata. He still didn't know what happened with her and her family. Was it that bad? He never asked because she'd always go quiet and get depressed. He knew her mother was dead, but that was about it. Ino was taken back at the usually sweet girl had thorns in her voice. Well, okay. See ya later, Hinata-chan, Naruto. It was the end of lunchtime and Hinata had gone extremely quiet, just like she always done when her family has been brought up. Naruto hated seeing her this way. He just wish he could do something about it. What can I do, Ibeo? He thought. This is when he got hit with an idea, and walked in front of the girl and turned to face her with a face of sadness. This caught Hinata off guard. She thought Naruto was fine throughout the whole lunchtime, no one had bothered him. He slowly used his arms and wrapped them around the girl. It felt awkward for him because he never hugged like this before, but it felt like the right thing to do. Nay, Nata-chan. I don't know what happened with your family and I won't ask until you're ready to talk about it, but please remember I'm always here for you, Ibeo. How can I become the greatest Hokage of all time and I can't even cheer up my best friend? The girl that was hugged welled up at this. She would have blushed and stuttered, but she returned the hug nevertheless and cried into his shoulder. Naruto's heart ached hearing his best friend cry this much. They were going to be late for class, but he didn't care. Hinata was top priority at the moment. Iruka was looking on at this sight. and thought it was best not to disrupt them, they'll come back when they're ready. End of Academy. All the kids were going home and Naruto said his farewells to Hinata and made his way to Kurenai's house. The pale-eyed girl then felt a hand grab her hand and it was Ino. Hinata was about to attack her but glad it was just the Yamanaka. So Hinata-chan, do you like Naruto? Hinata stumbled at this straightforward question while still had a grip on her hand and pulled her up. Anyo, he's my best friend Ino-chan. Kamoon. I know you like him, it's written all over your face. Did something happen at lunchtime? You two were late for class, she said as she nudged. The blushing girl buried her face in her hands. If she knew that this was Ino's intention, she never would have agreed to hang out with her, and go straight home. The Yamanaka interrogating leaned into Hinata's ears and whispered. Did you two kiss? That was it for the girl. She sprinted home not wanting this conversation to go anything further. Little did she know, that at home things were not any better. Kurenai stared at the boy. Well, aren't you going to tell me what happened between Hina-chan and the girl Sakura? Naruto looked at her like he was being held captive by her. I don't know what you mean Tte-Bayo, she didn't do anything wrong Tte-Bayo. As if on cue Hinata arrived through the door panting. I do not want to go through any more interrogation. Kurenai said her name in a serious tone, which caused the girl to straight quickly. Why yes, Kurenai, Ka-san. You. Sakura. Speak. Now. Hinata sighed once again. Mendokusai. She breathed out Shikamaru's famous phrase as it seemed appropriate for the day she's had. What was that? Anyo. Nothing. What had happened was. Anyo. She was being mean to, Ruto-kun, and I told her it wasn't very nice, okay. And pushed me, to the floor, then I got up and. I slapped her. But I didn't mean to. Anyo. Then I pushed her to the floor and I was about to, punch her in the, face but Iruka-sensei stopped me in time. She trailed off twiddling her forefinger as another nervous habit started to gain. Kurenai stared at the child who was like a daughter to her. She knelt down to her level and looked into Hinata's eyes. Red orbs meeting white ones, her red eyes filled with pride. She'll be one heck of a kunoichi, I'll make sure of it. Hina-chan, you're not in trouble. I just wanted to know your side of the story as Sakura had told her parents that you attacked her for no reason. They came over here accusing you of something that wasn't in your character. This only confirms that you told the truth and you admitted to hitting her. And I'm glad you listened to what I say, but Hina-chan, the slap was enough. You understand that, right? Hinata was smiling until Kurenai reached the end of her speech. She knew that but she didn't know what came over her. She blacked out for a little bit and woke up with her fist raised in the air. Anko Nichan has said that she's been blind with rage before, it's probably the same as that. Not thinking about it any further, she responded to her surrogate mother. I understand, Kurenai, Ka-san.